Hey everybody, this is just going to be a quick supplemental to a video I posted yesterday that was on how to manipulate a topography for sake of architectural design purposes, so if you're adding or removing dirt. One question I got was, looking at a topographic surface like this, how to align the UV coordinates, UV grid that you see here, to the site better. So you can see here that, oops, I'll do that. The site, when you use the patch command, it generates this sort of overall surface that it aligns the surface to the topography lines. The problem is those are at a sort of random angle that is auto-generated by Rhino and not actually aligning to the site. So a way to solve this issue is during the patch command. So I just have the topography lines here and then the site. The first thing I'm going to do is actually just do an offset on the site. I just want a surface that's bigger than the topography lines. This is a 300 foot by 750 foot site. I'm just doing a 100 foot offset, and I'm just going to make that into a planar surface, just as a sort of starting surface. So now when I run the patch command, I'm going to select my curves as usual, hit enter, and if I hit the preview now, you can see that it will generate that sort of randomized rectangle that fits to these curves that I have. If I use the option here of select starting surface and click this surface down below, essentially now when I do it, it's going to use that surface as a reference. Now this works pretty well, but you can see the corners are trying to attach, which isn't exactly what we want. So to fix this issue, all we have to do is just go to the starting surface pool and set that to 0. I'll hit preview again. And there we go. So one other thing to note here, because this rectangle that we're starting with is not a square, I've adjusted my UV span. So I wanted to have more division along the long length, so I set that one to 15, and less division around the short length, I set that one to 10, so that my UVs are closer to square. Now this isn't quite perfect, so I could continue adjusting this. See if I can get this to be, there we go. So in this case, 7 by 10 or 17 by 10 UV seems to get a pretty nice size and pretty good square. The reason you might want to do this is when you're adjusting and pulling points, they're going to be now in reference to the orientation of the grid of the site, as opposed to that sort of randomized orientation that you would otherwise have. Okay. So just hit OK, and everything else applies the same. So if you want to make this into a solid, I would use the original site or any sort of surface like this to extrude a curve and use this as a splitting surface. So Boolean split these two guys. And again, now we have a UV grid that is actually aligned to our site as opposed to the random orientation. If for some reason you wanted a different orientation than site, just use a different starting plane at the base. Just make sure that you have that pull value set to 0 so that it doesn't try to attach to it. Okay, that's it. Thanks.